Let's enter weird showbiz history.
It was not our intention to offend anyone. To those of you who were offended, we apologize, but we don't regret having done it.
CBS Television Network President Robert Wood said he regrets canceling a program with such wide appeal.
Yeah, but there was pressure from the executive branch, the government, to get us off the air.
You think the Nixon administration
absolutely.
pressure?
This isn't just a story, it's a case. A case of two seemingly innocent comedy folk singers who dared to challenge the system. They started out as the epitome of clean-cut entertainment, all sweater vests and strumming guitars. But they were hiding a secret, a wicked sense of humor, and a burning desire to speak truth to power.
We get a lot of derogatory letters saying that we are communists, pinkos, and those are the good letters.
So, how did they go from wholesome TV personalities to being branded as enemies of the state?
Sometimes we get too heavy and we lose some of the entertainment value, but that's through trying.
Well, buckle up, buckaroos, because we're about to pull back the curtain on the scandal of the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour.
Good script.
Nothing funny in this. Here you are, boys. We're through censoring your show.
Meet Tom and Dick Smothers, two brothers but polar opposites. Tom, the impish provocateur, landing punchlines with a mischievous glint in his eye. Dick, the perpetually exasperated straight man, forever trying to maintain order in his brother's chaotic world. They were the classic comedy duo, but beneath their wholesome image lay a carefully concealed agenda.
Their innocence was their deadliest weapon.
People are going to wonder if you're really as dense as you seem.
So that's a starting bit that we always do. We start off the show very dramatically with these voices moving it. Creates a lot of excitement. Not tonight.
Their story began like any other, two kids growing up with a shared love of music. At Redondo Union High School, Tommy, ever the ambitious one, envisioned himself as a band leader, recruiting his younger brother Dick to sing. Later, at San Jose State in the late 50s, he drafted Dick again. They landed their first professional gig at San Francisco's Purple Onion, playing 3 sets a night. Tommy started to get laughs by ad-libbing song introductions.
And I swear by all the stars in the skies that as long as I live, I never will marry. Unless I can marry her. I'll mess around a little bit, though, you know.
That's the first time I noticed Tommy could get a laugh. Because we were just singing regular songs and never had to introduce him.
I noticed it earlier, but
He noticed.
it came to his
A little
attention
slow.
a little bit later.
They were honing their skills in smoky dives,
developing the kind of dynamic that would take them to the very top.
Pull that cabbage down. Take it, Tom. No. I said no, I didn't want to take it. You're supposed to take it.
Their chemistry was undeniable. It was pure magic.
It was during a performance at St. Louis's Crystal Palace that their act crystallized. After Dick, in character, berated Tom, calling him too dumb to be a brother, Tommy improvised his now legendary line.
Yeah, well, Mom always liked you best.
With that, a new comedy archetype was born. A comedic moment that would forever define their careers.
Go get him, kids!
Gee, Tommy, she's really nice. Yeah, she's one of the nicest little old ladies I ever met.
What do you mean I'm a nice little old lady, for heaven's sake?
They blasted into national consciousness in 1961 when host Jack Parr, not entirely convinced, introduced them to his audience as the boys whose father was killed by the Japanese and whose act might be awful.
Nobody else would have had us.
I was drinking at the time.
Their blend of folk music and quirky comedy propelled them into the spotlight.
We did our first Tonight Show. We couldn't even walk around New York without everybody spotting.
The next day.
They soon became staples of late-night television. A stint on ABC's Burke Law.
Do you gentlemen remember where you were this morning around 11 o'clock?
I was working right here.
Anyone with you?
I was.
You was. Well, beside you.
I was.
You was.
Led to a short-lived sitcom, The Smothers Brothers Show.
Nobody else could play the stranger in the mansion. Perfect for the part. Strong in the right places and tender in the right places and a little bit of flab there to show that you're human.
A bizarre concept where Tommy, as a deceased angel, guides his earthly brother Dick.
Was at sea without his water wings, and now he is an angel and he tries to do amazing things. That's right.
But it was more situation than comedy. The series was soon cancelled.
My new angel assignment is to, this is why I'm dressed up as a business. My new angel assignment is to save a junior executive's job, because he's going to be replaced by a machine.
Where to, buddy? The unemployment office?
I want to be more relevant than this sitcom.
Behind the scenes, a creative prison, too structured, too sanitized, lacking the spontaneity and live audience they craved. They compromised their principles. It taught them a valuable lesson that they would not be tamed. They wanted real freedom, and CBS, with a bloated roster of aging stars, they were desperate to lure younger audiences.
We have to appeal to teenagers.
That's right.
Yeah. Maybe we could get Acne.
Offering the boys a 13-week contract.
Our career's over anyway. But I want control.
Tommy demanded complete creative control using their own production company, and to everyone's shock, CBS agreed. They wanted a variety show showcasing both established stars and younger, more socially relevant artists, appealing to a generation hungry for a different kind of entertainment.
They didn't care. They didn't expect it to succeed.
Tom and Dick, the Smothers Brothers, are going to be on from 9 to 10 on CBS. And it's nice to have such nice folks in front of us.
And so, in 1967, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour hit the airwaves.
From Television City in Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen, meet the Smothers Brothers.
CBS, with their expectations set low, placed it opposite the ratings juggernaut Bonanza.
It was a slot so notoriously deadly, they called it the kamikaze slot.
The Cartwright clan were world beaters. 9 prior shows that dared compete with them cancelled into oblivion.
So with all that pressure, the brothers had to be funny. No, very funny to survive.
And if required, revolutionary.
How do you do, Mr. Fidel?
What is that fiddle?
Fidel?
Fidel, what do you think, I'm a dog?
Oh, Fidel.
To achieve this, the brothers assembled a team of comedic insurgents, the finest young writers and performers in the country, including future comedy titans Rob Reiner, Bob Einstein, Colt Gottlieb, and a young Steve Martin.
I'd come in the morning and I'd see Tommy and I'd say, "Hi," and he'd say, "How'd you know?"
Hey, fellas, Tommy or Dickie, would you please come out here?
The show began with a symbolic torch-passing ceremony, with comedic legends Jack Benny and George Burns handing the instruments to Tom and Dick.
Which of us do you think is the oldest?
You mean which of you two are the older?
Yeah, which is the oldest?
They looked the part, wholesome and clean-cut, a welcome presence in America's living rooms. But that was just part of the plan. They were wolves in sheep's clothing, about to unleash a comedic storm.
Hey, Dick, I'd like to borrow your bass for a minute.
Week after week, the show captivated younger viewers with its blend of music, humor, and a rebellious spirit that was impossible to ignore. The young writers were given unparalleled freedom to create, which led to a kind of anarchic spirit rarely seen on TV.
And into the first trick, this is the big one, this is the over-the-shoulder trick. Now under the leg. Now bounce it off my foot. I never could figure out how to end this thing.
Bob Einstein recounted how Sid Caesar was in a sketch where he had a rubber axe. He demanded a real one, but Bob insisted, "If I give you a real one, it's gonna be a problem." After Sid refused to record the sketch, Bob got him a real axe. 20 minutes later, he was driving Sid in the back seat to a hospital with an axe embedded in his thigh.
It was seasoned and spiced up with political satire or social comment, but that wasn't the whole show at all. It never was intended to be. It was a show that was an hour variety show that had some social comment in it.
At this point, the brothers were beginning to diverge. Dick, content with classic variety comedy, sought to deliver purely hilarious entertainment, but Tommy, fueled by his social awareness, was pushing the show towards a more political orientation.
Well, tell me, what do you think's the greatest single problem in the United States today? Apathy.
Well, the show's more important than the stars of the show, really.
Tommy protected his young writers, fighting tooth and nail to put things on TV that no one dared do before.
Who wrote the heavy satirical pieces? Gonna get all the letters.
And their goal was crystal clear. They were there to entertain the general public, not to appease CBS.
The television landscape of '67 was dominated by family-friendly shows, variety shows like The Ed Sullivan Show, fantasy romance sitcoms like Bewitched, and the family-centric Beverly Hillbillies. The Smothers team wanted to create something original. By the 10th episode, the game was changing. Head writer Mason Williams and the ever-restless Tommy Smothers
started weaving in a new kind of message into their sketches, political satire.
This wasn't just about laughs, it was about challenging the very fabric of American society. Tommy, acutely aware of the changing times, saw a country divided, and the television landscape was not reflecting that reality. The war in Vietnam, the civil rights movement, the rising counterculture, these factors became the fuel for their comedic fire.
And that's when the trouble really began.
Their audience, especially the younger viewers, ate it up. But not everybody was laughing. The network executives. The suits at CBS started to sweat. That they had unleashed something that they couldn't control.
And then inevitably came the censorship.
Tom, with a twinkle in his eye, staged a seemingly innocent sketch mocking censorship with Elaine May, comically excising words like breast from a script. But when CBS actually cut that very segment from the show, it sent a very clear message. The network was watching and they were not amused. But Tommy responded with a brazen act of defiance, flaunting the censored script in a later show.
It's a very funny sketch. I got a lot of laughs, and Elaine, we told you we'd get the sketch on.
The censors, with their outdated ethos, found themselves in a new world, completely unprepared for the sexual, political, and social commentary being showcased on screen.
Ethel, we're going to have a baby. We are?
On her sitcom, Lucille Ball was actually pregnant, but in the show she couldn't even say that word. It was abundantly clear that network executives, they were clearly out of steps with the time, man.
We want to be able, on our show, or any show, and television in general, should be able to reflect all the other mass media.
Join us as we share a little tea with Goldie.
Isn't it? It sure is, isn't it?
The writers initially named Lee French's character Mary Jane Roach, a clear drug reference. Predictably, the network rejected this, so the writers renamed her as Goldie Keefe, another slang for pot.
You just bury that in your backyard and don't let him in until you've seen the warrant.
Her double entendres about drugs and sex, delivered with that deceptively innocent smile, somehow managed to slip past the network's increasingly frantic censors.
How to get rid of those unsightly, unwanted roaches in your home. And I want to thank all of you for sending me all your old roaches.
Hey, our government is asking us as citizens, good citizens, to refrain from traveling to foreign lands.
When the US imposed a travel ban, Tom said directly to camera,
"Okay, all you guys in Vietnam, come on home."
It was clear that the network was losing control.
It was all too much for President Johnson. He called CBS head William Paley at 3 a.m., demanding he get those bastards off my back. That very day, Paley ordered the heads of CBS Entertainment to get the brothers to back off. But they predictably doubled down, making the conflict even worse.
Do you consider the Communist Party a conspiracy? I don't like giving arguments about politics or religion, for that matter. No, but do you consider the Communist Party a conspiracy? I'll just give you my answer.
They immediately booked Pete Seeger. Blacklisted in the 50s as a communist sympathizer, he'd been off primetime TV for 17 years.
I found out from them later, they had asked CBS, could I be on their show? And CBS said, well, let's think about it.
They brought him on to sing his anti-war anthem, Waist Deep in the Big Muddy, which was predictably cut. But Tommy was not going to let that stand. The brothers protested, and the following year succeeded in having him sing it uncensored. It was a clear act of defiance, a direct challenge to the network and the political establishment.
And they left it in. So I had that knowledge that the program practices was just as confused about what was acceptable, what wasn't. It was a moving criteria.
We're waist deep in the big muddy, the big fool says to push on.
And well, if lampooning a real government official was too much, they decided to create their own fictional candidate, Pat Paulson, a monotonal, slow-witted politician featured in almost every show.
What is our most cherished right since pioneer days? The right for every man, woman, and child to carry a gun. If you're old enough to get arrested, you're old enough to carry a gun.
They launched a parody, Paulson for President campaign, satirizing the political process.
Mr. Paulson, how do you stand on the question of welfare?
Why should our taxes go about those that side and get a job?
One last question, Mr. Paulson. A great many people have charged you with talking out of both sides of your mouth at the same time. Would you care to comment on this?
No.
Despite Paulson's hilarity earning him a primetime Emmy for Best Individual Performance, CBS banned him from the show, claiming it was to avoid having to give actual candidates equal time.
I can be a screamer. I don't like that side of me, but it's part of my personality.
The friction between CBS and Tommy
was reaching a boiling point, making him even more stubborn. If something was volatile, he couldn't wait to get it on air, never accepting no for an answer. CBS, desperate to regain control, began to apply increasing pressure. The Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour became the first show to be pre-screened for affiliates, who would decide what was acceptable in their local markets, creating yet another layer of censorship.
And affiliates is more like a string of Christmas tree lights. You know, one goes out and you can blow the whole thing.
Several affiliates, unhappy with the show's criticism of the president, pulled out, and the ratings started to drop. By the third season, the conflict was out in the open. Tom and Dick opened the show wearing matching turtlenecks and Nehru coats, sang about peeping censors and their ongoing battles with CBS.
Peeping censors lurking in the wing. CBS would like to give us notice, and some of you don't like the things we say, but we're still here. He's still there and so am I.
The 1968 tear gassing in Chicago at the Democratic National Convention became a turning point. CBS refused to air Harry Belafonte singing Lord Don't Stop the Carnival over footage of the violence.
Jump in the line, rock your body in time. Won't you jump in the line, rock your body?
Deeming the contrast too jarring, so they cut the entire number.
We kind of bent over backwards, reluctantly not to put too much of it in.
Then in March 1969, Joan Baez's introduction, where she mentioned her husband's draft resistance.
And it's a kind of a gift to David because he's going to be going to prison probably in June, and he'll be there for 3 years. He refused to have anything to do with the draft.
That was also heavily edited. In fact, they did it in a way where it removed all context.
It's kind of a gift to David because he's going to be going to prison. So this song is called The Green, Green Grass of Home.
The The network was clamping down.
They even refused to broadcast an entire episode, all because of comedian David Steinberg's religious comedy sermon.
And to this day, the New Testament doesn't sell.
Which received more negative mail than anything in broadcasting history, leading CBS to ban him from doing any more comedy sermons.
And we had a great deal of problems from that telecast, and it was all intended in fun. But we have Mr. Steinberg back with us again.
He returned, did another one, and taped it, and the entire hour was buried.
Well, we feel that God has a sense of humor. We were made in His image. And if we have a sense of humor and we're made in His image, God must have a sense of humor also. We feel that God will forgive us, even if some of you don't. I'm sure that most of you will. Good night. Thank you.
When hunks of material be excised from the show, censored from the show, there was time to fill. I took those times to talk to the audience. That's when I had lost my balance as a comedian, and it was hard for me to be funny.
The Smothers Brothers continued their anti-war satire after President Nixon's election, and the new president was not amused.
And for the start of his term, we are going to give our President Nixon our full support and lay off the jokes entirely. That's right. He's going to be in office for at least 4 years, and I'm sure we'll be able to get around to him a little bit later.
But this year, after assassination, the riots, etc., and particularly the war and the election, they have come down harder, tougher than when we started.
We've done good things on this show. We have done some great things, but you haven't seen them because of the censor.
Dick, ever the voice of reason, tried to convince Tom to just focus on the comedy, be more subtle. But Tommy, fueled by righteous anger, refused to compromise. He had a mission, a message, and he would not be silenced.
You consider yourself now primarily a comic or a producer or a politician?
I don't know.
He came up with this grand plan. To protect new, edgier material, he would deliberately delay delivering the completed episode to the executives at the very last minute. Therefore, the censors, they would have less time to make edits. And this was a high-stakes game. A game that would unfortunately lead to their downfall.
In April 1969, he delayed handing over another episode using the same tactic. But the tape arrived too late, and although CBS had already renewed the show for a fourth season, they used that late delivery as an excuse to cancel the show.
CBS announced today that the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour will not return to the CBS television network next season. But he said that the Smothers Brothers consistently failed, under contractual obligations, to deliver their program tapes in time for review by the CBS Program Practices Department.
CBS couldn't claim that it was due to low ratings. They may have dropped, but they remained immensely popular. The network, sensing the changing political and social climate, chose to side with the intolerant minority over the millions of fans loyal to the show. They silenced the opposing view, while Bob Hope and John Wayne could praise the war with impunity.
Improving the lives of these people is not just a humanitarian idea. It's a military necessity.
They want their dissidents out there. They didn't want the protester to have a primetime show, particularly.
After Nixon's election win, the Smothers Brothers had become disposable. A clear division emerged between political ideologies and their tolerance for satire. On their last episode, Dick read a letter from former Democratic President Johnson.
To be genuinely funny at a time when the world is in crisis is a task that would tax the talents of a genius. To be consistently fair when standards of fair play are constantly questioned demands the wisdom of a saint. It is part of the price of leadership of this great and free nation to be the target of clever satirists. You have given the gift of laughter to our people. May we never grow so somber or self-important that we fail to appreciate the humor in our lives.
But years later, Nixon's involvement would show a far less tolerant response. It was revealed that Nixon used campaign funds to pay for a private investigation of the Smothers Brothers, placing them on his enemies list.
Pressure from the executive branch of the government to get us off the air. We were the first success.
On the enemies list.
The cancellation became a pivotal moment in television history, exposing the fragility of artistic freedom and also the true extent of corporate control.
It was a brutal end for the show, and for Tommy, it was a devastating blow.
I had my job and my family, and I had the time that was Dickies for fun and growth and learning new things to do. The job was just part of it. The job was everything for Tom.
But the story doesn't end there. Just 2 months after being fired, the show gave CBS a final epic middle finger, winning the Emmy for Outstanding Writing Achievement in Comedy.
The winners are the writers of the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour.
Tommy, ever self-sacrificing, removed his name from the list to ensure his writers, who he valued so highly, received the honor.
And I would like to say a special thanks to Dick and particularly Tom Smothers. We're very proud. Thank you very much.
The brothers then filed a $31 million lawsuit for breach of contract. CBS claimed the entertainers had violated their contracts by not conforming to network practices and standards. After an 8-week trial, the Smothers Brothers won, receiving around $750,000 in compensation.
We sued him for breach of contract, and we won. We maybe lost the war, but we won that battle.
But what they lost was truly immeasurable.
Are you recognized a lot now, both of you, since the show's been off a while? You haven't vanished from the business, but...
Yeah, we've vanished from the business. We're not recognized as much anymore. Time keeps going by, and things have changed, and our style of what we're doing is kind of past. People will occasionally give us back an old autograph.
During the 4-year battle, the brothers felt that they'd become, pariahs of the industry.
It's very hard to get back into the swing of things. You get some momentum going. It's hard to get it started again because we tried it and weren't too successful.
They went out on the road playing small venues, Vegas shunned them, and friends acted awkwardly around them.
But then again, I've had those 3 bad years. So I don't plan on making a comeback.
For 3 or 4 years, you were ticked off big time.
Big time. I couldn't even laugh.
Tommy lost his sense of humor, regretting how serious that he'd become, focusing all his anger and all his energy into the network war, instead of just focusing on the comedy.
Sometimes there's some tapes there I look at and I cringe, and I'm so desperately sincere.
But he always knew that Dick, though disagreeing on the approach, never blamed him for the cancellation and always stood by his side.
You've done nothing that is responsible. Right now, I am wearing a condom.
When CBS kept getting in the way and saying we were controversial, my thought was they reacted and created something that wasn't really intended.
While Tommy sharpened his yo-yo skills, Dick raced cars and started a winery. They had short-lived comedy shows on ABC and NBC.
That's another fine mess you've got me into. Well, I didn't. Ow!
And both worked independently in TV and feature films.
Then in 1980, fueled by a new creative spirit, the brothers finally reunited.
In 1988, CBS, in a truly ironic twist, invited them back for a 20-year reunion show.
I'm really excited. Returning to CBS after 20 years. Don't forget, this was a network that fired us. I hope they welcome us back. Of course they are. See, remember what I told you when we quit CBS? What did you tell me? I quit. Fired. Okay, when we fired CBS, I said... No, wait.
This time the network wanted them to be controversial. No thanks, they said, having finally found a way to do it on their own terms.
Or as the kids say, how do you like me now?
I told them they will think about it, realize they made a mistake, and have us back. It's been 20 years. Oh, okay, it wasn't right away, but we're back.
They continued to perform across various platforms, but their moment in the cultural zeitgeist had passed.
And the truth is, Tommy deserved the writing award as much as we did. And tonight, the Television Academy has decided to give Tommy the award he has so long deserved. When it came time for the writers to submit their names to the Television Academy, Tommy, thinking that his name was too volatile, refused to let us include him on the list.
In 2008, Tommy received an honorary Emmy, recognizing his sacrifice on behalf of the show's writers, introduced by Steve Martin.
One of my comedy heroes, Tommy Smothers. A man who has given me so much.
A comedian who viewed him as a crucial influence.
I want to thank them for all the great writing that got me fired. And I thank you very much, and I thank my brother, Dickie Smothers, for 50 years, my partner, and all my life, my brother. Thank you so much to the Academy.
After more than 51 years of touring, the brothers officially retired in May 2010. They did return to the stage in 2022 with a planned tour in 2023, which was sadly cancelled after Tommy fell seriously ill. He passed away on December the 26th, 2023, leaving behind a legacy that continues to inspire.
His influence on subsequent generations of comedians, undeniable.
With many celebrated satirists citing him and the show as a key inspiration.
They started out seemingly innocent, didn't they? But their legacy proves that even humor can be a dangerous weapon. And those that speak the truth, even through humor, can be a threat to those in power. Did CBS silence a revolution? Was the cancellation a politically motivated attack? The answers remain elusive, but the echoes of their story continue to resonate. The case of the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, a mystery that continues to captivate and challenge us all. Please comment below about your thoughts about the cancellation, who was in the right, and about the themes still present in society and comedy today.